All right, I'd like to welcome you all to another episode of Hebrew News Network. It would just be me this evening. Nate is at home with the fatherly duties because uh, the wife and his sister and his mother and sister and aunt, they're going to go out this evening. Hopefully they'll be safe out here in this weather. But it's just like a small celebration for my daughter's birthday, May 26th. So anyway, hope everybody doing pretty good. This evening, we'll be looking at uh, Iran suspends memorandum of understanding pertaining to the 60-day agreement between the United States and Iran. So just so you know, it has been suspended for the time being, and we'll look at that and see why. Also, Zelensky makes good on his Russia warning with massive drone strike on Moscow. And also, the Ukraine starts negotiations to join the EU, which is the European Union. And in addition to that, we'll be looking at Noah's Ark could finally be found after historic deal promises irrefutable proof. And north of us, in America here, the very north of us, and Canada's parliament officially passes Bible ban bill C9. We'll be checking that also. And our false prophet for this week is Tiffany Montgomery. She says something very gross, and we'll be looking at that. Just a warning for people to be mindful of these lying, greedy dog preachers out here. And good evening, Brother Dorsey. Also, Word of Truth, Georgia. Now, we got two of them now. Which one is which? Is this both of us, Brother Carlos? Sister Cheryl, how are you this evening? Brother Carlos, how you doing, bro? And last but not least, as you all can see from the title this evening, everlasting life to those who keep the words of Jesus. And the reason why I titled it that is because we'll be looking at an article today where it says world first therapy to make cells young again, trialed in a person. And essentially what needs to happen is, what's up, Jarian? What needs to happen is be obedient to the Lord's word, and that's how you're going to get everlasting life. No matter what different things they try, it doesn't matter. You cannot stop death. Only way you can stop death, you got to come under the blood of Jesus and be obedient to his law. And that's what's going to get us out of this situation. Not any trials, experiments, anything like that. All right, so let's go to our first article here. Let's see here. All right, so let me share this with you guys. And Tuesday, I think I was pretty tired Tuesday, trying to get back in the swing of things and stuff. With all the rain, it kind of throws us off as far as our company is concerned and what we do. So by us trying to catch up with it, it had us thrown off. So by the time I got home, I was tired. So I think Nate was tired as well. So we just decided to move it to Thursday. And like I said, he's watching my grandson tonight, so I'll be holding it down this evening. So thank you all for tuning in once again. All right, so as you can see here, flash traffic, Iran suspends memorandum of understanding. And really what that is referring to is an understanding that is pertaining to an agreement that's going to cause a ceasefire for the next 60 days between Iran, United States, and Israel, which is really the culprit of this war in the first place. So now we can see America trying to stop it. Never should have got involved in it in the first place, but America has to take a back seat, and Israel will do whatever they can to try to take over. However, in the end, the Gentiles will show who actually rules and run this whole world until the Lord return. All right, so in the article here, it says Iran has suspended its entire 60-day negotiation period with the U.S. over the direct violation of the MOU's first clause, according to reports from Iran's Fars news agency and Al Mayadin News. All right, so based on if you guys are paying attention to what's going on in the news, peace, Brother Kevin, you see that, we came to somewhat of a ceasefire, right? But Israel already broke that ceasefire deal. America, is trying to make the deal, and Israel is not having it. So, because of that, it has been suspended. So, like it says here, Iran says Israeli attacks on southern Lebanon constitute a breach less than 24 hours after the MOU was electronically signed. Iran's negotiating delegation had already been preparing to depart from Switzerland to launch the first round of talks before Iran made the decision to suspend the entire trip. Urgently, Iran makes it clear it will also not unilaterally fulfill its commitments until Iran is fully assured Israeli attacks on Lebanon have stopped and the U.S. has practically adhered to the first clause obligations. Talks remain canceled. Vice President slams Israeli cabinet. United States Vice President J.D. Vance slammed the remarks coming out of Israel regarding the memorandum of understanding and also remarks by Israeli cabinet members about President Trump. So Israel has the nerve to talk about the president when actually, he's trying to do things to be on their side, and the vice president will make that known. Here's what Vice President Vance had to say about Israel today. All right, so let's see here. Give me 1 second. Let me remove myself.
Saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the president of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path. But to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the president of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the president of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all. Saying
Well,
something to somebody.
actually, when you think about it, he got a point, right? Because nobody else is really riding with Israel. You know what I'm saying? So got a point. I personally, if I was in a situation where everybody's against me, as far as in a situation like this, I'm not going to try to bite the hand that feeds me. And that's really what you got going on with Israel, trying to bite the hand that feeds them. But eventually, we're going to see that it's the Gentiles that run it all. Netanyahu really getting beside himself, but it got to happen. All this got to unfold. But just want you to see that the memorandum of understanding, for the most part, has stopped until Israel can stop hitting Lebanon. That was supposed to be a part of the agreement, for them to stop hitting Lebanon, and right into the agreement, they fired on them again. So it seemed like to me, I don't think Israel wants peace. They trying to take over the whole Middle East and stuff like that, trying to get rid of you know, uh, the Muslims, which all of it's false. But trying to get rid of them because they want to build that temple over there. And at some point, there will be a peace agreement made, but we know what the Bible tells us about that. So just something for you to keep an eye on. I would have brought out an article today about the reserves as far as gas and stuff like that is concerned, but it wasn't necessary because the Lord gonna provide. So let's move on to our next article. Zelensky makes good on his Russia warning with massive drone strike on Moscow. And the reason why I want to point that out, because I want you all to see all the different players that are, constantly in the news now. Ukraine is somewhat, a part of Russia. I believe it was annexed some years ago. Um, So if Russia want to take it back, they can. But I want you to see this right here because Zelensky is provoking Russia. And the whole thing started back during the days of Biden's presidency anyway. As soon as he got all you gotta do is go back and look it up. You'll see as soon as he got in office, the first thing Biden did was fund Ukraine, and they started provoking Russia. And it's still going on today. Nobody's stopping it. Eventually, we know that the bear, going to be provoked to the point that they're going to come over and fight against the European Union. But just pay attention to this right here because this is going to lead into our next article. And it's not that long. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds.
9 miles from the Kremlin, the sky went black. The Moscow oil refinery, one of Russia's largest, supplying more than a third of the capital's fuel, burning. Russia says its air defenses downed 555 Ukrainian drones overnight, nearly 200 approaching Moscow alone. They stopped most of them, not all. 4 Moscow airports shut down, not because of weather. In the suburbs southeast of Moscow, teenagers grabbed their phones. What they posted, compiled by Russian opposition channel TV Rain, wasn't propaganda. It wasn't defiance. It was something rare in Russia right now. It was shock, awe, fear. These kids grew up with this war on television. Last night, it moved into the neighborhood. Ukraine called this retaliation for Russia's missile strike on the Kiev-Pechersk Lavra, the ancient monastery complex, the spiritual heart of Orthodox Ukraine. President Zelensky, after arriving in Brussels for talks with NATO ministers and EU leaders, again referred to these Ukrainian attacks.
Okay, I want you guys to see something right here. Let me just come back a little bit. All right, so that's Zelensky. He's like the president over Ukraine or prime minister, whatever you call it. But just pay attention to what it says. So he arrived. Yeah, he's the president. So he arrived in Belgium, right? So notice what it says here. Pay attention to what the narrator is going to say.
NATO ministers and EU leaders again referred to these Ukrainian attacks on the Kiev-Pechersk Lavra, the ancient monastery complex, the spiritual heart of Orthodox Ukraine. President Zelensky, after arriving in Brussels for talks with NATO ministers and EU leaders, again referred to these Ukrainian attacks on the Russian motherland as sanctions.
Okay, so if you notice, it said that he arrived over there to talk with EU and NATO leaders, right? So that's very important. The next video will show us why. Let's finish this.
And offered a new maxim. If Ukraine burns, then Moscow will burn as well.
Yeah, they don't have enough to be able to fight against them. But I wanted to point that out for a reason, and this is the reason right here. So as you can see here, Ukraine starts negotiations to join the EU. So now, if you have any biblical background or understanding of the Bible, we know that the European Union at some point will have an army formed. Right now, they don't have an army, but the Ukrainian president is trying to join the EU for somewhat, some type of protection from Russia. But eventually what got to happen is Europe going to form their own army. So, but wanted to point this out once again, because as they narrow it down right now in the EU, it's 28, might be 28, 27 different countries that are part of the European Union. Ukraine trying to become a part of it. However, at the same time, you're going to have 10 of those nations that will come together on one accord. And they will be the army that will be used to fight against those that believe in God. So I just thought it was necessary to point this out, because Ukraine fighting against Russia is also trying to become a part of the European Union. So we'll just keep an eye on that. But let's hear what he has to say right now.
This is particularly important for Ukraine, since we, all Ukrainian society, believes that the joining the European Union is our dream, is like formalization of a visible dream for Ukrainian society.
We are moving forward in the negotiations, and we believe that one of the strongest responses Europe can give to Russia's attacks and constant acts of aggression is to accelerate our accession process, to accelerate the opening of clusters. It often feels as if we always have to fight harder than others to move forward on our path to the EU.
So something to keep an eye out for. It also said that another country had filled out for it too. I think it said Moldova. So they had also, I guess, put in their application to join the EU as well. So we're gonna keep an eye out for that right there. But once again, you see there is consistent war going on between the two. Those are very important. Like we just saw with Iran, ceasefire has been broke by Israel. So Iran say they're not meeting with nobody. They don't want to talk at all until America does exactly what they want. And that's one thing we have to understand is that when you're dealing with a country like Iran, dealing with a country like Russia, you know, you have to realize that these are not like some small countries where you can just go in and take over. It was a video I was going to pull up a few weeks ago where this young lady said, she said that we don't dislike Americans. We dislike the people that's in power that represents America. You know, and she as she getting down toward the end of her statement, she also said that Iran is an old country. Actually, we're the Persian Empire. And who do they think they are coming over here trying to tell us what to do, being a brand new country, a new country? This is what she said. So I was going to clip it and show you guys, but she actually said that they are the Persian Empire. It was an Iranian woman that said that a few weeks back. But, you know, looking at Iran, looking at Russia, these are two parties that, you know, two nations, two countries, a part of the Gentile dynasty, of course, but they were moving together. You know what I'm saying? And this is why you're starting to see, you know, you see both of them going at it at the same time, not with each other, but different, you know, different countries they going at it with. Like, for example, Iran and Israel and America going at it, Ukraine and Russia going at it, you know, and both of these countries had made an effort to stay out the way, minding their own business, you know. So when you hear that statement, poking the bear, that's exactly what's happening. They poking the bear. The Bible even, you know, describes Russia as a bear. The Medo-Persian Empire, he even describes it as the bear. So we'll keep an eye on that once again, and just trying to stay abreast on things, you know, just so we don't get caught off guard. You know, when Lord tell us to watch, you know, watch and pray, we just gotta watch and keep an eye out for different things that are going on. That way, you know, it don't happen to us like most people, just catching people off guard. So, all right, let's go move over to the next article. This right here is referring to Noah's Ark. And, you know, it's like people don't believe the Bible, you know, and whether you believe it or not. Like, for example, I say that because, you know, some people think the Bible is a fairy tale. Some people think that it's a man-made book, you know, written by the white man and stuff like that. But it's the word of God. And by it being the word of God, you know, it don't matter what people believe. You know what I'm saying? Whether they believe it or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is that, you know, you got to make the decision to believe it for yourself. So in this right here, you have individuals who are, you know, trying to see if Noah's Ark actually existed, and they've come upon some artifacts that, for them, may show that it actually happened, that the destruction of the world during the days of Noah actually took place, and the Lord did actually tell Noah to build an ark. This is the conclusion they coming to about the artifacts that they're finding. So let's go take a look at it. So Noah's Ark could finally be found after a historic deal promises irrefutable proof. A mysterious formation high in the mountains of eastern Turkey has long fueled speculation that it could be the final resting place of Noah's Ark. Now, researchers who believe they have identified signs of a massive man-made structure buried beneath the site have received official approval to put their theory to the test. The team behind Noah's Ark Scans announced, The team behind Noah's Ark Scans announced that its Turkish partner has secured government permits to conduct what it describes as the most comprehensive scientific investigation ever undertaken at the Durpanar Formation near Mount Ararat. The expedition will include non-destructive core drilling. Hold on, let me slide up some. Non-destructive core drilling, advanced remote sensing technology, next-generation imaging systems, and an underground drone named Gopher designed to map what lies beneath the surface. In a statement announcing the approval, the group said it hopes to provide the world with irrefutable proof that the formation is the authentic resting place of Noah's Ark. The researchers have previously used ground-penetrating radar to scan more than 20 feet below the site, identifying what they describe as angular structures and hidden voids that they believe are inconsistent with a natural geological formation. Noah's Ark Scans fundraiser, Lauren Witzke, said, "This is not merely a scientific expedition. This is confirmation that one of the most scoffed at stories in history, Noah's Ark, is real, as is the God who inspired it. In his wrath and mercy, sent the flood for which it was needed." The expedition is scheduled to begin later this year, with preliminary findings expected to be released as data is processed and verified. Verified. It don't need to be verified. Oh man, what did I just close? Hold on one second, y'all. What did I just close? I just closed out one of my screens that I need. Let's see, can I find it right quick? Reload. Where is that art? I just had an article that I wanted to show and I clicked it out by mistake. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. We need this right here. All right, cool. All right, so, but with the Noah's Ark thing, like the Bible tells us in Romans 3, it says, just to paraphrase, for what if some did not believe? Does that make the faith of God without effect? And the answer is no. God forbid, right? But he turns around and says, let God be true and every man a liar. So in other words, whatever the Lord said happened, whether we was there or not, it's truth. It's the word of God, and when we come with, whether we understand it or comprehend it or not, it don't matter, so regardless, you don't have to show me an ark. You don't have to build it up. You ain't got to go find it for us. Like the Bible talks about it with his word, he's not going to send nobody off into heaven to get it. He don't got to send nobody down to the depths of the sea to get the word for you. You know what I'm saying? It's right in front of you. And for us today, it's right in front of us as far as the Bible is concerned. We all have access to it. You can look on your phone, look on your tablet, look on your PC. There's a way for you to find the word. It's right here. It's right near you. It's not too far at all. So for us that believe in the Bible, we don't need no proof. I think I was about to say earlier how people have been trying to prove the word of God for a long time. You look up some artifacts, look up different articles and stuff like that, you'll see that they have been saying, years ago, they said that they found Pharaoh's chariots in the Red Sea. And I believe them. I believe they found them because the Lord killed Pharaoh and his army in the Red Sea. And just like he said he flooded the earth, ain't no telling what happened to the boat. It could have disintegrated over time. I don't know, but the point is that according to the word, I believe that it took place. And the Lord don't need scientists to verify it. It's just that, for some people who lack belief, it's just further proof that the word of God is, exactly what it is. If you said it's gonna happen, if you said it happened, whether you believe it or not. Just like I was saying, I meant to bring the article out this week, y'all. I completely forgot. Please do not let us forget. We need to bring out that article about AI next week. I want to go over it and just kind of touch base on what the article was talking about pertaining to how the Bible is, for the most part, airtight, like we say. All right. All right. So we're going to look at something else here. Let's go over to, let's see here. Now, this is something that we all need to pay attention to, because a lot of times, when the world takes a certain direction as far as religion, a lot of times we'll be involved in that as well. Like I say often, the best way to cook a frog is to boil them slow. You know, so as far as passing bills and uh, you know, infringing on our rights as far as religion is concerned, the best way to, like I say, get these bills passed and stuff like that is kind of like doing it under the cover of night, or just doing it real slow, throwing a little bit in here and there. And when people are not paying attention, they get these different bills passed. And by the time we wake up and see it, it's already passed. It's a great example I can give pertaining to this is look at the data centers. We don't know what those data centers will be used for, like 100%, but we know it's going to be storing data. What data, we don't know. Because I can't prove it. I can't prove it as far as like go inside the data centers and see what they actually printing. I mean, what they actually storing, right? But at the same time, we know it's data. Now, if it is what we're doing, like as far as serving God and taking our information off Facebook and taking our information off TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, I don't know. But by the time everybody has, somewhat awakened to these data centers, guess what? They got them all over the place now. Now you have people starting to react, and they having meetings and stuff like that, and trying to stop the data centers, not just in Georgia, all over the place. They have an organization online that is set up strictly to meet with people, neighbors, and communities and stuff like that to stop the data centers. However, by the time you get to it, it's already here now. And that's what give that example to kind of show you it's the same way with different bills that they pass. By the time a lot of people wake up and realize what's going on, it's already done. It's already done. So this right here, we might be able to kind of see this coming down the pipes. But a lot of times what goes for America goes for Canada. What goes for Canada goes for America and South America, so on and so forth. But like I say, as far as religion is concerned, when things change for religion, in this case, we're talking about, Roman Christianity, a lot of times it affects everybody because that's what the majority of people are doing. I mean, you got more, as far as religion is concerned, you got more people in Catholicism more than any other religion in the world. So let's see this right here. Give me 1 second here. All right. So as y'all can see from that, the title of the article is Canada's Parliament officially passes Bible ban Bill C9. Canada's House rejected a final attempt to stop Bill C9, which threatens to criminalize quoting the Bible, including on homosexuality. And that's really what the problem is right there. That's really what they want to stop. Notice we've been saying the Bible all these years, but now you use the Bible to call out, same sex and all that type of stuff. And now they want to stop it. And I say, and when I say mainly what goes for Canada goes for America, because you can go across the border into Canada, y'all. You can drive over there without a passport. You know, when you fly over there, you're gonna need a passport, but you could drive over there and drive right back through. You know, and it's really not a difference. Only difference is that you're gonna really notice over there. You're gonna notice the difference in the currency. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, the dollar here is worth more there. You know, so that's mainly the difference. But still, the dollar can be spent over there. You know, but other than that, you're still dealing with people who look like us, sound like us. You know, it's really no different. You know, so just pay attention to this right here, guys, because it may be coming down our way as well. Ottawa, Ontario, a final attempt to stop Bill C9 was defeated, meaning that the bill, which threatens to criminalize quoting parts of the Bible, including on homosexuality, has officially passed Canada's parliament and will soon become law. On Wednesday, June 17th, a majority of MPs voted down an attempt by Conservative MP Andrew Lawton to stop Bill C9 once and for all. The Liberals and Bloc Quebecos voted down my motion to withdraw the divisive and toxic Bill C9 to stand up for freedom of expression and freedom of religion, wrote Lawton in an X post. Lawton thanked Green and NDP MPs for voting in opposition to Bill C9, noting that opposition to this bill has come from the political left and right, from civil liberties groups and a range of faith organizations. With the adoption of the Senate's amendment criminalizing the noose as a hate symbol, Bill C9 will soon receive royal assent and become law. As reported by LifeSite News, Canadian senators voted recently to approve the Liberals' Bill C9 or an act to amend the criminal code, hate propaganda, hate crime, and access to religious or cultural places. Wow. However, because the last-minute amendment adding the noose was made, the bill had to go back to the House of Commons before it was sent to the Governor General for royal assent to become law. As reported by LifeSite News, Canadian senators last week voted down a recent proposed amendment to Bill C9 that would have criminalized residential school denialism. As reported, let me read that again. As reported by LifeSite News, Canadian senators last week voted down a recent proposed amendment to Bill C9 that would have criminalized residential school denialism. Residential school. Is that homeschool, y'all? Residential school denialism? What is that? Let's look at it. Give me 1 second. Let's see what that means, y'all. Look up residential school denialism. Let's see here. What does that mean? They don't got nothing on it. Let's see here. Okay. All right. I'm gonna share my other screen with y'all. Hey, Sister Elizabeth. Hope you're doing okay. All right. Let's see here, guys. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can read that other article. Hey, sis. Good evening. All right, well, I'm gonna just read. I'm gonna stop sharing the other screen first. Hold on, can you guys see that? Share this tab instead. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's just read that, and we'll come back to the Parliament. I just want to see what this. I want to see what this is about. What does this mean? Residential school denialism is on the rise. What to know and how to confront it, because without the truth, there can be no reconciliation. What needs to be reconciled? May 27, 2023 marked the 2-year anniversary of the TK Loops T, whatever that is, announcement about the location of 215 potential unmarked graves at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School in the interior of British Columbia. In recognition of the anniversary, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, used its Twitter account to post a series of tweets viewed by almost 2 million users in support of indigenous communities searching for unmarked graves at former Indian residential school sites across the country. Okay, what I got to do with the homosexual thing? Okay, one of the museum's treats, however, mistakenly stated that the remains of 215 children were discovered in unmarked graves at the school. This is not entirely correct. Okay, so that's the denialism I think they're referring to. I thought it had something to do with religion. So we're gonna go ahead and stop that. All right, I just wanted to do a little bit of digging on that, y'all. All right, so let's go back to our original article. Yes, things are going pretty good, sis, and praise God, everything is going good on your end as well. All right, so let's go back to it. A dark day for Christians. One conservative MP, Brad Reddekopp, called the official passage of Bill C9 a dark day for Canada and religious freedom and an assault on faith. Today is a dark day in Canadian history, wrote Reddekopp in an X post. The House passed Bill C9, an assault on religious freedom that removes long-standing protections for Canadians expressing sincerely held beliefs. Conservatives fought this bill every step of the way, and we will keep fighting until the religious freedom is restored. That won't happen, y'all. And you guys may not. Okay, let me just say something. Let me just say something here. All right, so when I was like, heavy into all that conspiracy stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because and you think about it, some of that stuff ain't conspiracy, because it be happening, right? But I guess I can say I came to find out or came to learn that mainly when you're dealing with the governments, right? It kind of seemed like you have people fighting for you. Like for example, so they put all of us in categories, right? So for example, I don't really care about the political system at all. So I would be a conservative. I like to work for myself, provide for myself. I don't need no handouts, none of that. Thank God. We did at a time. Don't get me wrong. So it's nothing against it, because if you paying taxes, if you putting into the system and you need to get out of the system, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Um, so use it, especially when you're paying taxes. That's what the tax is for. It kind of help the citizens in the country. That's how it operates, keep things going and stuff like that. That's what our taxes do, even though them taxes high as all get out. So you have people for the most part like that will fall in the Democratic uh sect, and you have people that will fall in a Republican sect, and you have people that will fall in, like I say, conservative or independent, right? And I think I'll probably be more so independent, not conservative. I mean, some of my beliefs are conservative. Like I like to, work and distribute things how the Lord allows me to distribute, as opposed to just putting it in one pot and they distribute it how they want to do it. Nah, I don't believe in that right there. Everybody gonna have to work if you can. If you can't, then like I say, that's what the system there for, to help you out. And you never know when you're gonna need help. So that's why I don't knock people who on stamps, on Medicaid and Medicare and all that type of stuff. Like, I mean, you need that stuff. Just don't abuse the system. I ain't gonna lie, man. One time we was getting stamped, boy, we getting so many stamps. I ain't never want to get off. And then we started making too much money, man. They took us off. I was like, man, goodness gracious, man, we made too much money. Boy, them doggone food stamps really help. Anyway, let me get back. I'm having memories. but what they do is they'll put people up to represent each side, right? They'll put people in place that so-called represents each side. You have like somebody who represent the Democrats, have somebody that represent the Republicans, and you also have like a Ron Paul who seemed like he was an independent or conservative, right? So you got all these people that they put out to represent these individual parties. And then what they do is they'll have like a bill, like say for a bill coming from the Democratic side that say we want to promote homosexuality, right? And then you have like a representative on the Republican side, act like he conservative and act like he loved God and stuff like that. And they'll use him to fight against the Democratic side. When all in all, at the same time, the Republican side want the bill passed as well. But what they got to do is they got to make it seem like they got somebody in the field fighting for them, when really this is what all parties want. Democrats want it, Republicans want it, independents want it, conservatives want it. They want homosexuality to pass. They want the Bible to be banned where you can't say nothing about that behavior, you know? So in this case right here, I say that because it may seem like this individual is standing up for, you know, religious freedoms and stuff like that. But like I said, they put people out there to make it seem like they care when actually that individual wants the bill to be passed as well. So don't fall for it. That's the point. Don't, you know, they all in bed together, just like rationalists are the same exact thing. So in this case right here, this guy who's supposed to be representing the conservative side, you know, I really don't believe him. Put it that way. The House has passed Bill C9, an assault on religious freedom that removes longstanding protections for Canadians expressing sincerely held beliefs. Conservatives fought this bill every step of the way, and we will keep fighting until religious freedom is restored. And the thing about that, it's not going to be restored. You know what I'm saying? Because as you can tell, the degradation is really what's happening in the world. It's not going back. It's going to get worse. Excuse me now. We don't want it to get worse, but it got to happen. You know, it got to happen. Once you know, like we talk about when it comes to the word of God, a little leaven the whole lump. So once you allow Satan to get in there, you know, he might as well just come on and kick the door down. And that's what has happened with society now. You know, kick the door down. You know, so these people make it seem like they care, but they really don't. This is what they want in the first place. This guy is just somebody that represents the real people like myself, like you all, who want righteousness to reign, right? So they just put this guy up here and say, well, here, go speak on their behalf. You know what I'm saying? When all in all, the lawyers, the attorneys, and the judges, they are friends. Likewise, in this case here. Canadian pro-life and faith groups, as well as a Catholic cardinal, sounded the alarm over the legislation. Indeed, in a recent letter to Canadian senators, Cardinal Frank Leo, the Metropolitan Archbishop of Toronto, said that while the Catholic Church recognizes the importance of addressing hatred and protecting individuals and communities from violence, changes are needed to the bill. Why not remove the whole bill? Because I know they can't talk. They can't talk because they just had a lesbian. She's now a pope. You know, this was on I should have brought that up. You know, I be having some good stuff, man. I be forgetting though. But it was there's a you can look it up, guys. Somebody look it up for me if you don't mind, and providing the link if you don't mind. But it's a female pope that is a lesbian. And matter of fact, when she be up there, when they had a picture of her a few weeks ago, she had on her she had like the thing that they, you know, drop over the shoulders, but it was in rainbow colors. You know, so what is he talking about? Like he not saying we need to kill the bill completely, the Catholic, you know, cardinal. He's saying we need to change it. Constitutional experts have blasted the bill, saying that it will allow empowered police and the government to go after those deemed to have violated a person's feelings in a hateful way. Oh my God. Wait a minute, y'all. Did y'all see this right here? It said constitutional experts have blasted the bill, saying that it will allow empowered police and the government to go after those deemed to have violated a person's feelings in a hateful way. So you mean to tell me the police not gonna go after somebody for knocking somebody upside the head? Not gonna go up to them for like trying to choke the hell out of them? They're not gonna go up to them for that. They're gonna go up to them and arrest them for hurting their feelings. Just pay attention, y'all. Just pay attention because, like I say, as Canada goes, America goes, and South America as well. Because they, you know, they all like on this one area here. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. The bill was introduced by Justice Minister Sean Fraser last year. Specifically, Bill C9 will remove Section 319, 3B of Canada's Criminal Code, This section protects the good faith expression of a person's religious views based on religious texts, such as the Holy Bible. So that's really what the war is against. It's against the Bible, y'all. This section protects the good faith expression of a person's religious views based on religious texts, such as the Holy Bible. So this right here, they're saying here specifically, Bill C9 would remove Section 319B of Canada's Criminal Code. So when they remove this Section 319 right here, the protection, like it says, this section protects the good faith expression of a person's religious views based on religious texts such as the Holy Bible. So once you take Section 319 out of there, then ain't no protection there for the Bible at all. Campaign Life Coalition previously blasted the passage of Bill C9 in the Senate, saying that God would not be mocked. This is a dark day for religious freedom and free speech in Canada, said Jeff Gunnarsson, national president of CLC. Very interesting, guys. We are in some crazy times. Speaking of crazy times, we need to show you today we are on tap right now for our false prophet of the week. And in this case, it is a prophetess. Listen to what this woman says out of her mouth.
Preaching better than y'all clapping. Because a lot of y'all got 87 semen going into you and you can't figure out. Trying to figure out why your pH is off. You put the wrong gas in there. I'm trying. Because they wasn't clapping, so I was like, I don't think they heard me, right? I'm trying to get their car to move with agility. And their car is on cinder blocks. It's not moving anywhere. And you put the wrong gas in there and it's put, you can't figure out why. And you put the wrong semen in you.
Did y'all hear what this lady said? Let me just go back. Let me just go back.
Preaching better than y'all clapping. Because a lot of y'all got 87 semen going into you and you can't figure out. Trying to figure out why your pH is off.
So if you don't know what semen is, we talking about excretion from a man, right? So this woman is in the pulpit saying that you guys got like 87 octane, you know what I'm saying, unleaded and all that type of stuff, fuel. She's saying this is why your imbalance is off. She's saying that you got 87 semen inside of you. Like what have we come to as a society where people would get up in the pulpit and even say something like, and now don't get me wrong. Now I know it's a false church, but you see how when Israel, the priest of God, get off the job and it allows all this other nonsense to come in. So this is why nothing against Gentiles, nothing against Hamites, nothing against any other, nationality of people, because, and like I say, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, those are the three sons that came out of Noah. Nothing against them. But this is why when other individuals from other nationalities, they come to church, they want to get the word. And after a while, I've noticed a lot of times that a lot of Gentile brothers, they start getting beside themselves and they want to start preaching and stuff like that and, want to take over. But what you got to understand is that, first and foremost, we didn't write the Bible. We didn't write the Bible. We just living by what the Bible said. And the Lord gave this job to Israel to preach this gospel. It's the Israelites' job to preach the gospel to the world, to get this world back on track. Since we have disobeyed God, we have been sent off into worldwide captivity, lost our position as the priest, for the time being. We getting it back now, and the world, gonna see it eventually. But lost our position as a priest. Other people have came in and took over the job somewhat. Ain't been doing the job, but I'm just saying they just stand in that position. And this is now what the world has come to. That that a sacred position in the church, we have now come to the point where you can get up inside the doggone pulpit and say stuff like this. Like we showed you something last week. Remember last week the lady with the lady was talking. She was talking nasty too. Now this young lady up here, I don't know how she is, but she up here saying now your balance is off because of your semen. Where is that in the Bible? But this is why it's important for Israel to get on the job and preach the gospel. We're not knocking nobody. We ain't trying to stop nobody from being a part of it. But the position belongs to Israel. It's our job. And mainly what we got to do is we got to clean this mess up, in other words.
You put the wrong gas. Preaching better than y'all clapping. Because a lot of y'all got 87 semen going into you and you can't figure out. Trying to figure out why your pH is off. You put the wrong gas in there. I'm trying. Because they wasn't clapping, so I was like, I don't think they heard me right. I'm trying to get their car to move with.
They're not clapping because they know this a bunch of hogwash. That's why they're not clapping. You know, say she trying. I guess somebody said, you know, preach, sister. She said, I'm trying. I guess somebody said that. She said, I'm trying, but they're not clapping. First off, she ain't supposed to be up there. Second off, this mess that's coming out of her mouth, I'd walk out.
Agility. And their car is on cinder blocks. It's not moving anywhere. And you put the wrong gas in there and it's put, and you can't figure out why. And you put the wrong semen in you. My mandate that God gave me was to build.
You put the wrong semen in you. Ooh, boy.
Older believers. You should never be weak as a believer. There should be never anybody that comes to you and said, I'll kill you. You should always look at them and say, you'll go before I do. Well, Tiffany, that's not nice. Okay, well, I'll lay flowers at your tomb.
And this is why we're so destroyed as a people, y'all. So destroyed as a people. That is the false prophet of the week, y'all. like I told y'all, we're not gonna run short of it. We're never gonna run short of false preachers. They always gonna be there. We're gonna have them till the Lord get back. All right, so now to our last segment for the day. And once again, thank you all for tuning in, having patience with us on Tuesday. You know, sometimes we will get a little tired. We try to make sure we do it every week. I mean, every Tuesday. But if we don't do it on, Tuesdays like we're accustomed to, we'll try to make sure we get it on Thursday, just to stay on our schedule of getting it done at least once a week. All right. So what I want to point out here is, all right, so from the title of this particular segment today, it says everlasting life to those who keep the words of Jesus, right? I wanted to point that out because, you do have individuals that are trying to figure out a way, to how can we extend life, right? How can we extend life? And ultimately that's what the problem is for the world today, is death. So mankind likes to do things outside of Jesus, right? Outside of the Father, try to figure things out on their own, and come up with all these different inventions and stuff like that, when actually the key to the problem is just being obedient to the word. That's it. And I think we looked at something like this a couple of months ago pertaining to like the same thing, trying to reverse age and stuff like that. And you're not going to run short of that, just like you ain't going to run short of false prophets, because mankind has not been able to figure out how to get out of death. Now, the Lord has given us understanding on what we need to do, right? We know based on the word. But that's the thing, though. You got to believe in the word. If you want to get out of death, you got to believe in the word, and not just what make you feel good, like your Psalms and your Proverbs. You got to read the whole Bible, and you got to believe the whole Bible. And once you start believing, you know what that's going to do? It's going to dictate your actions. And once you start, your actions are being dictated by the word of God. Now, what this is doing, this is setting you on the path to life. However, if you ain't trying to do it the way God has it set up, you on your way to death. It's that simple. These are the two choices that we have. We got life and we got death. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull up some. Let me put this in the comment here. Deuteronomy, so I don't forget. Deuteronomy 30, I believe. And we're gonna look at what the Lord told us we need to do to get life. That along with John 7. And then that's gonna wrap it up. But let's look at this article here. World first. Therapy to make cells young again, trialed in a person. A participant in a landmark clinical trial has been given a cellular reprogramming treatment that aims to rejuvenate damaged cells in the eye. And we're going to look at why it's the eye first. Let's just read right here. Scientists are attempting to rejuvenate cells in the optic nerve, which channels information from the retina to the brain. Okay. Now let's go and get into the article. Test time has arrived. The first person has been treated in a highly anticipated gene therapy trial that aims to coax aged cells to take on a younger identity. The clinical trial is testing an innovative technique that involves turning on 3 genes that can partially reprogram old cells, allowing them to behave as if they were young again. Some scientists argue that partial reprogramming could rejuvenate old organs, but this trial would test the activation of these 3 genes as an approach for treating disease. In this case, a form of glaucoma, a condition that can cause blindness. The hope is that the proteins encoded by the genes will enable regeneration of neurons in the optic nerve, which connects the eye to the brain and is damaged in people with glaucoma. I'm not against stuff that can make things better. Like, for example, like say for example, you start having hold on one second. Is it Pope John that says there's never been a female pope? She is on saying she. It might be her. Look and see what's her stance as far as the LGBTQ. I think she a lesbian. That might be her. But I'm not against like technology, right? I'm just against technology when you got to put in your right hand in your forehead, right? That's when I'm against it. So if they can come up with different things to make your sight better, look, let's not be deep. You know what I'm saying? Like they have laser surgery, right? You know, if something was wrong with my eyes and I could afford it and it would help, and there's if my options are going blind or laser surgery, then I'm gonna get laser surgery. You know what I'm saying? So I say that because I'm not against technology because the Lord works, the Lord worked through men. He get them the knowledge and stuff. But at the same time, like I say, just be mindful of different things when it comes to who you serving and stuff. And in this case right here, we see they trying to reverse certain things. They're gonna start off with the eye. We'll see later on that it's a safer method going through the eye first, right? Let's see here. The hope is that the proteins encoded by the genes will enable regeneration of neurons in the optic nerve, which connects the eye to the brain and is damaged in people with glaucoma. These neurons are not normally capable of regeneration. Oh, okay. They're not normal. The company sponsoring the trial, Life Biosciences in Boston, Massachusetts, announced today that it had treated its first participant. The stakes are high. The trial will test the safety of the reprogramming approach, which is a lingering concern for the field. Animal studies from several labs have suggested that partial reprogramming can be done safely, but there are fears that it could tip some cells into a cancerous state. Reprogramming has a big upside if it can be used safely in people, says Matt Kaberlin, co-founder of OptiSpan, a longevity-focused preventative medicine company in Seattle, Washington. The technology is still really early, and the potential for catastrophe side effects is high. As a result, the eye is probably a good first place to try the technique, says Kaberlin, because the chances of life-threatening side effects are lower with changes to the eye than to some other organs. So they're going to start off with the eye first. I guess it's safer. So they'll start off there first, and then they'll move to other organs. And like I say, all this is to, like we say, regeneration. But the Bible talk about regeneration, right? It does. It talks about regeneration in the Bible. And that's when the Lord get back, and then we're going to have life on the table, you know? But they trying to get regeneration a totally different way. Let me just come back up here and look at it one more time. So right here, look, y'all. See right here? It says the hope is that the proteins encoded by the genes will enable regeneration of neurons. So if you can regenerate neurons, and you can, in their mind, eventually start with the eyes and then organs and stuff like that, and you can, in their head, make life a little bit longer, right? Look, y'all, let me tell you something. You can't get out of death. There's no way out of it. Yeah, she is a lesbian, right? So that pope ain't. He talking about we need to change the bill. You need to shut up, because y'all, they just now let a lesbian pope in there. But you're not gonna get out of death, y'all. That's the point. You're not gonna get out of death as far as the first death is concerned. Every morning I get up, I look in the mirror, and I see it. I see it, man. It's like, I'll be like, man, boy, I see gray hair coming here. See another gray hair coming here. I mean, it's just coming everywhere. Why? Because I'm getting older. The Bible called it corrupt, right? Ain't nowhere around it. Ain't nowhere around that, because Adam sinned. So that's something that we have to, that's what we gonna partake in. But it's temporary. It's sleeping until the Lord return. That's all. And if they understood that, they wouldn't be trying to find different ways to get out of what's obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't no man ever conquered that besides Jesus, But Matthew 19, verse 28, I just want to put this in here right quick. Matthew 19 and verse 28, right? I'm going to show you something. Okay, I'm going to start at 27. Then answered Peter, Matthew 19 to 27. Then answered Peter and said unto him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And Jesus said, hold on, y'all. I think I got it. Oh, no, I ain't got it. He trying to, it's a little net, y'all. And he on my mic. And if I don't get him, it seems like he's trying to fly in my eye or my nose. So if y'all see me shoot a booger out, that's, excuse me, that's why it flew up in my nose. But notice what Jesus is going to say. He said, verily I say unto you that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, you also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. But Jesus said, he said, verily I say unto you that you, or ye which have followed me in the regeneration. When is the regeneration? When the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. That's when the Lord get back. And this regeneration we talking about life. We talking about everlasting life, y'all. We're going to be born again. So that's when the Lord going to, regenerate these neurons. We don't need man to do it. But you see that these neurons are not normally capable of regeneration. Of course they're not, because his body is set to die right now. But they trying, and the thing about it, at the end of the day, we're going to see that nothing can stop what the Lord has already put out there. Nothing new under the sun. Let's see here. Where are we at? Okay, so let's turn back the clock. This is where we are. The goal of partial reprogramming is to nudge aged adults' cell, goodness gracious, back in time. So that's what they mean. They trying to take mankind back, y'all. They want to stop this aging process, restoring features of young cells without pushing the old cells so far back that they lose their specialized identity and function entirely. To do so, Life Biosciences harness 3 of the 4 genes that in the laboratory can be manipulated to reprogram adult cells into a stem cell-like state. In 2020, geneticist David Sinclair, who is at Harvard Medical School in Boston, Massachusetts, and his colleagues reported that activating these 3 genes in mice with damaged optic nerves promoted neuron regeneration and reversed vision loss in elderly mice and mice with glaucoma. Since then, Life Biosciences has studied the approach in rodents and monkeys and has not seen serious adverse effects of the treatment, says Sharon Rosenwig Lipson, chief scientific officer at the company. So this is what they're going to try. This is what they're trying to do, to try to, stop like I say, what is evident, And by that being the case, we have to go to the word and just show you what the Lord says. How do you get out of this? How to get out of this? We'll go to 2 places, and that'll be it for this evening. Thank you guys for taking the time out to tune in. And the reason why we don't do it on Wednesdays, I try to, because we have Wednesday night Q&A, Israel Church of Jesus. So how I came up, I talked to my teacher a few weeks ago, and I was asking him about a location that be doing things on Friday night, and how I came up in the word, brother taught me some years ago. We kind of leave Wednesdays, not necessarily Wednesday, but we definitely leave Fridays open. Friday from 9 to about 11 o'clock, as far as doing podcasts and doing our own shows and stuff like that. We'll leave that open because, the big dog, our teacher, is actually teaching. And we always look at it like, well, why would we be doing a show while he teaching? You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, as teachers, we need to be learning from our teacher, right? So we'll leave that open. And I also made it a point, not only will I leave Fridays open based on how it was taught a long time ago. It ain't no written rule or none of that. It's just in my mind. If Brother Elijah's teaching, the brother has a wealth of knowledge that all of us can learn from. So between 9 and 11, I ain't gonna be doing no podcast. As a matter of fact, some of y'all, if you pay attention to Jediah, he has a podcast or a YouTube segment that comes on Fridays called Burning Midnight Oil. But notice he ain't come up with nothing on at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, right? Because that's just how we roll. We leave things open for the teacher, and that way we as understudies of the teacher, we can come in and learn as well. So that's why I don't do things on Wednesdays. It's either Tuesday or Thursday. But I did reach out to Brother Elijah a few weeks ago, and I was asking him about, it was a location that do things on Friday, and I was like, is that okay for them to be doing stuff on Friday while the class is going on? He's like, oh yeah, man. He said it's cool. He said, I ain't trying to I ain't trying to force nobody to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Long as they keeping it Sabbath, he say so yeah, it's cool, man. I don't want to be, like dogmatic in a sense and making people watch him, and I say, praise the Lord, man. But I've been, this been ingrained in me for so long that even though he said that, I still ain't gonna put no show out while he teaching, because it's just in my mind having respect for the one who done paved the way for me and many others. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we don't do it on Wednesdays. If something came up, well, that's why we definitely don't do it on Fridays. And on Wednesdays, I also like to keep the flow open for, my brothers, from other locations, because we switch Bible studies on Wednesdays, right? You may have LA, you may have Toronto, you may have Gary, you may have different locations. So I like to leave Wednesday open also. That way people can deal with their Q&A, the questions and different things they may have pertaining to the Bible. And then Tuesday is somewhat open. So that's where me and my son can come in, and do things on Tuesday nights. And then Wednesday night, I got Bible study. I don't know if anybody got Thursday right now, but if somebody got Thursday, and you think about it, then somebody get Monday. And then we also got on the other end, we got Bible in Plain View on Sunday. It goes around from each camp, from Atlanta to Philly to Jacksonville to North Carolina. Once everybody get in the constant rotation, like it's supposed to be, you got mainly something where you can get the word from Sunday all the way through Friday. And then Saturday, of course, that's obvious, right? So that's what we try to do. We just try to keep it open. So on Wednesdays, you get the word as far as Q&A is concerned. Tuesdays, we try to do Tuesday because ain't nobody really hitting on that. So we try to do that. It's just different avenues. And like I say, Fridays, we leave that open, for the teacher, especially. Wednesdays, we may if we have to, but for the most part, we're going to leave that alone. So thank you all for being able to shift your schedules to Thursday evening. That's the point. I would have did it on Wednesday, but like I say, I don't mess with Wednesday and Friday. So, but Deuteronomy 30 in verse 18, and I got one more place after this, and that'll be it for this evening. Deuteronomy 30 and 18. This is what the Lord is telling Israel, and this is good for us even now today. And we're not just talking about good for you in this life. It's gonna be good for you as far as everlasting life is concerned. Because it's the word that we have to obey that's going to get us life. And that's what most people are missing. It's not going to be inside of a needle. It's not going to be inside of a pill. It's not going to be inside of, regeneration of neurons and stuff like that. It's not going to be there by way of mankind. It's going to be in the regeneration that the Lord is going to bring. How? Because of us being obedient to his word. Because of us obeying his law, statutes, and commandments. So notice what he's going to say to Israel, Deuteronomy 30 and 18 by way of Moses. He said, I denounce unto you this day that you shall surely perish, and that you shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passes over Jordan to go possess it. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death. And right there, you had two witnesses right there, heaven and earth. He said that I've set before you life and death. So this is what Moses is saying, because he talked to the Lord, and he gonna get this to the people. What's gonna cause them to be successful? What's gonna cause them to get life? He says, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I've set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life. Choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. So you may say, well, what is this life? What is the life that we talking about? Well, once again, like I say all the time, the Lord don't leave things out there for us to try to interpret. He'll explain it himself. So let's see what he say. Let's see what his life is. Verse 15 says, see, I have set before thee this day life and good, death and evil, and that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God. Man, what is up with this? Y'all, the net was crawling all in my hand. I'm trying to read the Bible, got the phone in my hand. But the devil use anybody, one, anything. I'm going to say it again. See, I've set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. So that's what the Lord is putting before us, right? By way of Moses. He put before us death and good, life and evil. I'm sorry. Life and good, death and evil. Then he says in verse 16, in that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. So this is what's going to cause us to get life. Just being obedient, just doing what the Lord say. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land whither thou go to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that you shall surely perish, and that you shall not prolong your days upon the land. This is that evil right here. That you shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passes over Jordan to go to possess it. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I've set before you life and death. So the life is being obedient. The death is being disobedient, right? Life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, to take the choice off the table, so you ain't got to try to figure out what you need to do, right? Choose life. That's what he say. He say, therefore, choose life. It's easy. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. This is what's going to give us life. Then it says in verse 20 that thou may love the Lord thy God, and that thou may obey his voice, and that thou may cleave unto him, for he is thy life and the length of thy days, that thou may dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. So now let's move over to John chapter 7. But we seeing here, all we have to do is just be obedient. That's it. Why we gotta make it so hard? We gotta make it so hard. Like the goal is to get salvation. The goal is to get everlasting life. The Lord told us what we gotta do. We make it so hard. We make it so difficult, and all you gotta do as a man, and I mean mankind in this case, all you gotta do is just sit down and read the Bible. Or just search and ask God, what do I need to do? Like, show me your word. Give me understanding on your word. And then once he open it up and give it to you, now you got to be obedient and do what he say. But it's not hard at all. People make it seem like it's so hard. And when they take obedience off the table, they take life. They take everlasting life off the table. And this is why you have men trying to come up with different ways, to get life outside of what the word is saying. Actually, it's John 8:51. And I hope you guys are being safe. I hope everything's going okay with y'all in different necks of the woods. I know the storm and stuff like that coming through, so pray that everybody's safe. All right, so notice what the Lord is going to say to the Pharisees and stuff when they coming at him, and he kind of checked them and stuff like that. But in verse 48, it says, then answered the Jews and said unto him, say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and has a devil? Because he was going off on him. He called him, told the Pharisees they father the devil, and the lust of your father you would do. He was a murderer from the beginning, father of lies and stuff like that, right? And mainly wanted to kill Jesus, but he was just like, saying, why y'all trying to come at me, man? If y'all was Abraham's children, you wouldn't be doing the things you do, but you would believe me, And so they say he got a devil. Then it says, Jesus answered in 49, I have not a devil, but I honor my Father, and you do dishonor me, right? And he said, I seek not my own glory. There is one that seek and judgeth. Verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. Now, we're not talking about, and he going to go on further on to talk about Abraham rejoiced to see my day and stuff like that. And then he going to also let him know before Abraham was, I am. And they going to pick up stones to throw at Jesus because they know the I am is referring to Exodus. When Moses asked him, who should I tell him that sent me? He said, I am that I am. You know what I'm saying? So they got wind of that. And that's why he said in John 8 here, when he said before Abraham was, I am, look, they freaked out about that. But the point of showing you this or bringing you here is because notice what Jesus is saying in verse 51. He say, verily, verily, or truly, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, what do you mean by saying? If you just obey his word. If you just obey his word. Look, we're not talking about this death right here. We're not even worried about this. Because the older I get, the older you get, the more you're gonna realize, especially being in the word, that there's nothing you can do to stop that unless you're alive when Jesus returned. You can't stop that. That's just that's par for the course. Wages of sin is death. Adam sinned. Guess what? We got to die. So ain't nothing you can do about that. However, the good news in that is, hey, that's just considered sleep in the Bible. You go to sleep every night. You wake up in the morning. So it's just considered sleep. However, what we concerned about, the reason why we are serving God, the reason why we keeping his commandments, reason why we being obedient to his word, like he says here, keeping his saying, the reason why we doing this, because we trying to avoid that second death. And if we can avoid that second death, guess what we got? We got everlasting life. The life that everybody in this world, for the most part, especially with money, is trying to figure out how do we get it. See, the inclination inside of man is like, I don't want to die. That's how you know the Bible is true when it calls it a sting of death. Because there ain't nothing good about death. But the inclination in man want to live. And God wants us to live. but you're not going to live outside of his word and think that you're going to be able to get this life. Now, you got to live and do exactly what the Lord say, and this is how we're going to get life. So one more time, verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. Once again, thank you all for joining us tonight. Sorry, my son couldn't make it this evening, but I'm glad you all were able to tune in. Lord willing, we'll see you guys Tuesday, same place and same time, but 7 o'clock instead of 7:15. Lord willing, you guys enjoy the rest of your week and have a great Sabbath. And Lord willing, we'll see you guys once again next Tuesday.